please call the roll.
Good morning. Calling the roll for the Monday, April 25th Board of Control meeting. It's 11:01. Nan Baker. Here. Dale Miller. Here. Trevor McAleer serving as an alternate for Purnell Jones.
Here.
And Nicole English serving as an alternate for Mike Dever.
Here.
Mike Chambers serving as an alternate for Armin Budish.
Here.
Lee Tucker serving as an alternate for the fiscal officer.
Here.
Paul Porter.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is the review of the minutes from April 18th. I will make a motion to approve them. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The minutes are approved. Is there any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay, let's move on to our first item.
First item, BC 2022-249, Department of Public Works, submitting an amendment to a license agreement with Strong Capital 10 LLC and its agent, Railroad Management Company 4 LLC, to allow access to maintain, repair, renew, and use an existing 15-inch sanitary sewer and attached fixtures and appurtenances located in the city of Cleveland, to authorize annual payments of sanitary sewer license fees in the amount of $2,196.38, subject to annual adjustments, effective April 1st, 2020.
Nicole English with Public Works. This is an interesting item in that in 1942, a sanitary sewer was built by the county, and it needed an easement through NS Railroad's property. Since then, NS has given their rights up to these other fiscal agents and companies, and so we had received a bill about 2 years ago, and it looked a little fishy, and we actually thought it was a scam for a little while. Then they followed up and sent us a few more invoices, and so we've been doing a lot of research. We had to go back to these 1942 agreements, which initially it was sort of $1 a year type of agreement, but then when they transferred them to these companies that are trying to make a profit on buying up old right-of-way for railroads, they've increased the fee. So the fee is around $2,000 a year, but it does escalate, and it's in perpetuity until we don't need the sewer to be there anymore. So we did do lots of legal research on this, finally realized it is all legit. They've provided us with all their backup documents to show they are really the owners of this property, and that we owe them this money. So that's why it is extremely late, but it did take some thorough vetting and then back and forth to actually agree on an agreement that we could put in place on both sides.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. Are there questions from the board? Please.
And maybe I didn't hear you, 2021 and 2022, is this also going to be needed, or has that been paid, or?
Yeah, so we'll be making, I believe the first payment that we're gonna make is 3 years worth. So it's 20, 21, and 22. So it's, the first payment we're gonna make this year is about $6,000, 68.34. But this is the annual amount, is that 21.96 that you're seeing in the,
Okay.
and it'll be forever. I mean, until we don't need it anymore, essentially. That's what we're
Okay.
paying to have the sewer in their easement.
So there won't be a renewal, anything like that?
No, this agreement I think now covers us from here on out.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any additional questions? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item is approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-250, Department of Public Works, recommending an award on requisition 8271 and enter into a contract with ADMI Holdings LLC, doing business as Advanced Door Company, in the amount not to exceed $300,000 for overhead garage door maintenance services for various locations, commencing upon contract signature of all parties for a period of 3 years.
Good morning, Matt Reimer with the Department of Public Works. This is a renewal of our overhead door maintenance and services contract for the 14 buildings and some 40-plus overhead doors, commercial overhead doors throughout a number of our own county facilities. The procurement method here was a formal bid. We received one bidder. It is the incumbent contract holder to our current contract. The current contract expires on Thursday of this week, and this contract, if approved, would take effect on Friday, the 29th. Happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Mike. Are there questions from the board? Councilman Miller, please.
How does the cost going forward compare with what we're currently paying?
The labor rates that were part of this are commensurate with the previous labor rates, with some escalation, at least by my looking at it, sir. But we did have some building changes from the last contract to this contract. In particular, the bridge garage was sold. We did actually, this is the second contract with the Harvard Road Garage, which picks up a lot of doors. But it is within our not-to-exceed amount. The bid amount for just the maintenance of these doors is $86,190, and the remainder are for repairs as tasked throughout the life of the contract.
Please, yeah.
I was curious, and I know you answered that you're not certain why we didn't have any other bidders. It does seem odd for a job like this, we wouldn't get others to bid on it. And did our diversity, new diversity department, did they get a chance to look at this and maybe encourage some new vendors to take a look at it?
So, through the chair to Councilwoman Baker, the diversity goals on this were 20%. They came in with two diversity subcontract vendors on the contract bid tab worth 22%, one of which is another overhead door contractor that you could see potentially being in the marketplace, at least at a quick internet research that I did. We know historically that there's not limitless numbers of overhead door contract. A quick research on mine turned up 5. I know we had 10 plan holders on this, but one of them has City of Cleveland and Hopkins Airport, and so that really from a workload standpoint takes them out. At least that's the feedback we received in the past. But aside from that, I can't answer why they wouldn't make a business decision to try and bid. But they do include an SBE overhead door contractor on this bid that is someone else in the marketplace.
If I may,
Yeah,
just
please.
curious, do we try to reach out to different vendors if we don't hear from too many of them, or do we just try accept what comes in?
Certainly, if we don't get any plan holder responses on any of our procurements, we try and work with the Department of Purchasing to either extend the bid time frame and find a way to get the information out there, or, but in this case, we had 10 plan holders, so that wouldn't have been expected, actually.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate
Sure.
it.
Additional questions on the item? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second?
A second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item is approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-251, Department of Development submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in a large-scale economic development leverage grant award to the Lincoln Electric Company in the amount not to exceed $250,000 to support a two-phased renovation and expansion of their headquarters, engineering and manufacturing facilities for the purpose of new product development and advanced manufacturing for the period June 1st, 2022 through May 31st, 2025, and recommending the grant award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Hi, Mr. Chairman and board members. This is a request for a strategic large-scale economic development incentive piece of funding assistance for a major renovation and modernization project, which will firmly establish the Lincoln Electric Company's engineering and new product development activities within Cuyahoga County and the city of Euclid. Lincoln's a global manufacturer of welding products. I know you're all aware of them. Arc welding equipment, oxy-fuel and plasma cutting equipment, robotic welding systems and the like, and they were founded here in 1895. So the funding request is for a not-to-exceed $250,000 large-scale leveraging grant from the county's Economic Development Fund, which will be used by the company in funding a variety of rehab, construction, machinery and equipment, and infrastructure components of an overall $16.5 million construction project. I do have representatives from Lincoln Electric here today, Bruce Altieri and Tony Zalar, who can answer very specific questions if you have them about the more detailed aspects of the projects after my remarks. And I also want to just introduce Vaughn Johnson, our Deputy Director of the Department of Development, who's a member also of the county's Equity Commission. So just briefly, Lincoln is embarking on the renovation of various portions of its headquarters and plant facilities for technical and product innovation engineers who will lead the company's new product development activities. The expansion involves two basic key phases. The first one is a $6.5 million renovation project of their 40,000 square feet of their headquarters facilities to support the engineers and associated staff that's critical to this project. And then phase two is a $10 million project of advanced manufacturing and innovation projects that involve conversions of its existing factory spaces to implement a series of state-of-the-art manufacturing models and environments that will support the production of its new technologies, overall comprising what they're calling the factory of the future. This will capitalize on the success of its designed products and systems, such as they have PowerWave Advanced Process Welder Series, various PC board assembly project initiatives, and so on. The primary goal of the project is to enhance Lincoln's ability to attract and retain best-in-class engineering talent and frontline manufacturing employees. They'll retain 100 engineers already there and create at least 20 new engineering jobs, again, in our county and in the city of Euclid, with an emphasis on a diverse workforce. This is very important that the incentive that we're providing alongside of other government partners in this endeavor, the city of Euclid and Jobs Ohio, to solidify again the company's technical and product innovation engineering personnel here. I think the key, though, reason and critical sort of aspect of this is of us doing an incentive is Lincoln's commitment to perform very extensive diversity and inclusion outreach in its recruiting of minority candidates for the additional 20 newly created engineering positions that I mentioned. As a requirement of the grant, the company will be actively attending recruiting events at historic Black colleges and universities, posting all engineering jobs with the Society of Black Engineers, Society of Hispanic Engineers, Society of Women Engineers. They'll be utilizing Employed Radio 1 to advertise engineering jobs for diverse candidates, do postings in Ohio Means Jobs, Veteran Services, the Access Second Chance Reentry Program, and other systems and websites. The Department of Development, we have the contract already crafted and will be continually monitoring Lincoln's activities in this DEI effort. So I can, just the terms, again, the overall project is $16.5 million over 3 years. The project will retain, again, 100 current engineering positions and creation of 20 new within 3 years again, and immediate return of the grant if the above terms are not fully met, and there is a corporate guarantee that's being supplied for this grant. So I will end there, and if you have any questions of me or of the company representatives.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Are there questions? Mr. Mackler.
Good morning, Mike.
Hi, Trevor.
A couple quick questions on the goal and the extensive recruitment, right, is one of the reasons why we're making this a grant.
Correct.
Out of the 20, is there a projected number of how many will be minority candidates? I know it's hard to say because they have to take the job and everything, but
yes,
what is at least the goal going into the recruitment?
We don't have a hard and fast, you know, this, I hate to use the term best efforts. There are so many, they have so many avenues and so many things that they're doing on this, and this is commensurate with what they do just as a matter of course. So this is particularly sort of concerted on this. I would let them sort of say what they think the percentages are. We don't have a sort of a line per se. We're going to monitor and make absolutely sure on a real-time basis to see what their efforts are. We have every you know, confidence that this is going to elicit a large proportion, perhaps all 20 of minority candidates for these jobs.
Right. And then, do we have an average annual salary projected?
We
for each
do.
one?
Yeah, these new jobs are will be averaging $70,000 a year, so that's going to be a $1.4 million payroll annually. And then, not to slight the 100 engineering jobs. Those, I dare say, are probably higher salaries. And we are requiring that at the end of this 3 years, there are 120 engineers on site. So we're staying sort of hard and fast on the existing body of engineers that are there, and then the additional people on top of that.
Then just my last comment, and I understand why it's here because of the dollar amount, and I haven't talked to the chairman about it, but I do think even maybe a post-presentation, an economic development committee would be helpful. I mean, this is one of our most important employers, I would argue, in the county, and they're doing good things, and with their outreach, I think something like this could be presented to the full committee, with Councilman Sharon saying, okay, but I think
Is
we
that
should have
going to be required?
No,
in order to-
I think after.
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely. I would love to, yeah, I'm sure the company would love to do a post, sort of expansive presentation and sort of a picture of what's going on here. You're absolutely right. This is very cutting edge. It's very important. It obviously fits importantly in the county's equity efforts. And so, yeah, I totally agree on that front.
I have a
Councilwoman Baker, please.
So this isn't what sometimes we see as gap funding?
No, it is
has
not.
nothing to do with that. And I know you said that you're very trusting that this, this diversity number will be reached, but you also said if not, you can draw back. Did you say that?
We, again, the hard and fast requirements are they have to complete the project within 3 years.
Okay.
And we have to see 120 engineers on site at Lincoln Electric. And we'll be getting annual, if not even more so, actual certification reports from them as to the actual individual employees. There's a chart with various fields of information on those people. And that's something that is in concert with or very much how we do our loans. And that is that we require on an annual basis certifications of the jobs that have been created.
Okay, so that will follow the same as you normally do.
Correct, yeah. In that instance, that will be in lockstep with what we do in our lending.
Given we have a new diversity kind of pullout from our procurement, will there be more attention given to this, maybe to watch it closer or to be more engaged?
You mean in terms of our more global economic development loans and activities?
With this project in particular, that 250,000, and we're really asking that this be watched and monitored to make sure that these events take place, these hirings are, and that we hope to have, as you say, most of them be.
All I can say is, and again, Vaughn Johnson could chime in from our side, and that is basically this will be something that we stay on top of, much more extensively than we've done in the past. And we've done this in the past with some other loans and sort of scenarios that we've been doing, like with Gojo Industries and things like that, where we've accelerated or sort of put up front more than we have the mechanics of actually, monitoring what they're doing.
Right.
So this will be a serious effort to monitor this on a regular basis.
Given we have the resources, it's such a targeted initiative.
Yes.
That this would be, I would think, a perfect opportunity to really make sure that we oversee it closer than maybe we would have not having those same resources.
Absolutely. I guess I'm hesitant to say, sort of predict or sort of claim what the success rate might be on this, but we have every confidence, and again, maybe Lincoln Electric can chime in on this front. There's a vast set of activities. I only mentioned a few of them of recruitment that they do with regard to minorities, and in this case, it'll be in the engineering field.
And I was just going to add that, yes, we will keep a closer eye on that, especially because I serve on the equity committee with Director Lockett and others. So there will be a renewed focus on what Lincoln's doing as it relates to this.
Given that that is the focus of the grant.
Yes,
is all,
correct. This is
right?
a
I mean,
a
it's not,
pivotal,
Absolutely
right,
it's not like it's a
aspect.
broad grant
Right.
that we're just contributing because
Right.
it's a great company. We are contributing for this reason.
Correct.
That's right.
That's why I asked.
And Councilwoman, I might just add too, we're not alone in this. There are two other sister, brother grants that are going along with this. The city of Euclid is providing a $250,000 grant to
I see
this,
that.
incentive grant. And also Jobs Ohio is doing a $500,000 economic development grant. So we're not alone in this thing in terms of the incentive package that's going on here.
Just in closing, thank you for your investment. We really appreciate it. It's great. It looks like a,
It's an exciting
yeah,
project.
it
really
is exciting. Glad to have you be here. Questions are just addressed to the 250,000 that we're contributing.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any final comments from the board? Mr. Mackler, we're good with a follow-up presentation. We don't have to read anything into the
I would
record.
agree with that too. I'd love to see
I
it in economic
completely agree
development.
with that sentence. We can set that up.
And I haven't talked with
haven't
Chairman
either.
Strawn, but I think he would probably welcome a presentation in his committee.
Okay, so we'll leave it up to Mike to schedule something. Okay,
Happy
great.
to do so. I'll work with the Lincoln people to make that work.
Okay, seeing no further questions, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Chair.
Thanks.
Next item, BC 2022-252, Department of Information Technology, submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to Progress Software Corporation in the amount not to exceed $52,500 for software licenses, support, and maintenance services on the Sitefinity web content and case management system for the period May 1st, 2022 through April 30th, 2023, and recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Janelle Green, Department of IT. Sitefinity is the content management system that we use for the county websites, and we wanted to renew the agreement with Progress for another year. We did do 2 informal bids that returned rates that were higher than our $50,000 threshold. So then we in turn did a formal bid, and we got the 52.5, and we are here today to present this renewal for the licenses.
Okay, thank you, Janelle. Are there questions from the board? Councilman Miller?
How many applicants bid on this work?
On the formal, no one bid. The vendor had provided quotes for the informal, and they didn't want to provide any more quotes. So they just said, whatever we submitted before is what we'll go ahead and with for the renewal. So we only had the one.
And how does the cost going forward compare with what we're currently paying?
It's about $4,000 more than what we paid in the past.
Okay, any additional questions? Seeing none then, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2022-253, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services, submitting amendments to various contracts with AT&T Corporation for network connectivity services for the Next Generation 911 system for various time periods to expand the scope of services effective upon contract signature of all parties and for additional funds in the total amount not to exceed $162,750. The amendments for various time periods will expand scope of services for temporary DS1 lines for CAMA T1 circuits and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $17,826 to add 2-layer 2 WAN connections hub to hub and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $116,160 and for temporary IP flex and SIP circuits and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $28,764.
Good morning, Mary Beth Vaughn from Public Safety. And you may recall back in February, I brought an amendment to our Motorola contract to you, and at that time we explained that we were looking to replace the emergency call work system with Motorola's Vesta system. This was actually a solution that Motorola, the vendor, came to us with. They were paying the costs associated with it, and at that time I had mentioned I'd be bringing 3 amendments for circuits that were going to be needed for the conversion, and that's what these are. The first one are the lines that run from the Motorola data center to the backup center down in Columbus. These are temporary lines while both systems have to operate. Once we're on the new system, the old lines will be shut off Motorola will be reimbursing us for these costs. The other is for additional redundancy and system survivability. These were lines that we were actually contemplating prior to the whole Vesta solution. So we are going ahead and moving forward with them. So this is an improvement that we're putting in the system ourselves. And then the last one is for the IP Flex SIP circuits. These are the circuits that allow the dispatch centers to actually take their 10-digit calls through the call system rather than having to pick up and answer a telephone. Again, these are temporary lines that we need to have operate so both systems can operate at the same time until the conversion is finalized. Once the conversion is finalized, we'll stay on the new lines and the old ones will get turned off. And again, Motorola is reimbursing us for these costs also.
Okay, thank you, Mary Beth. Questions from the board? Please.
So when do you anticipate the conversion to be finalized? How long is it, till 2024? Do we take it that long?
With me is Lisa Rafferty. She's our CCOM's manager. Lisa, could you join us? They're asking when we expect the conversion to be completed.
For both the temporary asks?
For the temporary, so we are hoping that the project is complete by third quarter of this year.
Oh, so.
But as each PSAP is transitioned over to the new system, we'll get rid of the redundant circuit.
So this is a very short term. And
What we're hoping
so
for.
2024 is, what's that?
Fingers crossed, that's
Oh.
what we're hoping for, depending
Why
on
go
supply
to
chain.
2024? Why have such a long time on there if we don't think we're going to need it that long?
These are those are the end dates of the actual contract. So these amendments these are just for the additional money for the period that we have to take and have the duplication. But because these are amendments to existing contracts, those are when the existing contracts end.
Okay. And the improvement for the two WAN connections, hub to hub, is that permanent then? And will that go beyond the 2024?
That'll be part of the next renewal of the certificates, circuits, yes.
All right, that's interesting. Thank you.
Councilman Miller?
I have one follow-up question, which is whether the contracts that are going to be redundant become redundant prior to their expiration date. Are we able to leave these contracts early, or are we committed to paying for them through their expiration date?
No, we only pay for the redundancies while both circuits are live. As soon as the circuit gets shut down, then it automatically, we stop paying on it. And I actually have a team member who monitors the AT&T contract on a monthly basis to make sure that if we said it's shut down on this date, that they actually stop billing us as of that date.
Sounds good to me. Thank you.
Okay, any final questions from the board? Nothing from the gallery there. I will make a motion to approve this item. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item is approved. Next item.
Next item, PC 2022-254, Office of the Medical Examiner, recommending an award and enter into a contract with Vertiv Corporation in the amount not to exceed $5,481.70 for a sole source purchase of maintenance services for the Liebert Vertiv uninterruptible power source system backup for the automated fingerprint identification system, commencing upon contract signature of all parties for a period of 1 year.
Hugh Shannon, Medical Examiner's Office. This is a maintenance contract on the UPSs that provide the backup power for the APHIS system.
Okay, Hugh, thank you. Questions from the board? Please.
Just curious why it's only for 1 year?
I actually
Sole source.
asked the same question, so we're going to explore. I think the company itself was the one who initiated the 1 year. But I had asked our folks to have discussions with them about extending it to a longer length term.
Maybe better price, sole source, seems logical to go a little longer
Right,
than 1 year.
and that may be why the company wanted to only do 1 year, but
Maybe.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
good-
without
good question.
competition, that, kind of narrows it down. Thanks.
Sure. Any additional questions from the board? Seeing none then, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved.
Thank you.
Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-255, Sheriff's Department, recommending an award on a purchase order to City of North Royalton in the amount not to exceed $7,500 for prisoner boarding care services for the period April 25th, 2022 through December 31st, 2022.
Good morning, Tanisha with the Sheriff's Department. We're requesting approval on this purchase order with the North Royalton for future prisoner boarding care charges not to exceed 60 days, equivalent to $7,500. You all may recall on April 4th, the Sheriff's Department received approval to pay all past due invoices with North Royalton, and at the time, no inmates were being housed there. This PO will allow for us to pay up to 60 days of charges, only if needed, until December 31st, 22.
So Tanisha, you're just being a little proactive, trying to
We
have
are.
something ready,
We're
right?
trying.
Okay. Are there questions from the board? Seeing no questions, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Macular. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-256, Sheriff's Department, submitting an RFP exemption which will result in an award recommendation to Occupational Health Centers of Ohio, PA Company, doing business as Concentra Medical Centers in the amount not to exceed $41,611 for drug toxicology screening, physical exams, audiograms, and lead blood testing services for prospective and current county employees for the period February 26, 2021 through December 31st, 2021, and recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Tanisha with the Sheriff's Department again. We are requesting approval to pay a little over $40,000 in past due invoices from February 21 until December 21. During that time, these services were being provided under a contract which term expired December 31st of 21. That contract was a result of an RFP completed in 2017. Due to the increased number of CO hiring events, the funds allocated for this contract were not sufficient to cover the additional charges. Unfortunately, this was not discovered until after the contract term had ended. Was not discovered until the contract term had ended and after a lengthy reconciliation process. Approval of this PO will allow for all past due invoices to be paid and without interruption to the current services.
Okay, thank you again. Questions from the board? Councilman Miller, please.
Under what circumstances would we test prospective or current employees for lead blood testing?
That's a great question. I have Stephen Witt with HR to answer any details on that contract.
Stephen Witt with Human Resources. So the lead blood testing portion of this contract is actually for the medical examiner's office because they do firearms testing. So periodically those firearm technicians are tested for lead to make sure that they're within reasonable levels and they're not, and their facility isn't contaminated with too much lead per particles in the air.
Okay, thank you. And do we have a current contract of this type in place?
Yes. So last year we conducted a RFP process, which resulted in a new contract with Concentra. For the most part, the pricing is about the same for all the rates. The reason why this had to be done as a PO is because it was on the previous contract that had expired, and we're well past the period to amend that and pay those outstanding invoices.
Okay, no problem.
Mr. Macular, please.
Good morning, guys. What's the total contract amount for 2021? How much over were we over with 41,000?
So the contract is I want to say about $90,000 to $100,000 annually. This year, I believe we went with $120,000
For 2022?
For 2022, of which the Sheriff's Department increased their portion to about $45,000. And we are already discussing with the Sheriff's Department as we continue to do these hiring events to add more funds so we don't run into the same issue. Because as Tanisha stated, there is a lengthy reconciliation process. The way that works is all the invoices for Concentra funnel through to Human Resources, in which we disseminate them to various agencies With the sheriff's department, because of their volume, they handle their own payments. But there is that reconciliation process, and we also make sure that we're being charged the correct amounts and things like that, because there are the multiple Concentra facilities around the county, and when potential hires go, we want to make sure that we're charged the correct rates and not the street rate.
Thanks for that background. It's just a little frustrating, just as at the Board of Control, I mean, we really don't have a choice in this situation, and I mean, we're almost 50% over the original contract amount, and it's almost May, and we're just fixing it now. And I know there's a lot of, behind the scenes, back of the office functions that need to happen here, but that's a lot to be over, and not even knowing, even last October where we're gonna be over by 50%. So it's just a little frustrating as someone who sits on the Board of Control that we don't really have much of a say in this, because they need to get paid.
And we understand that, and we're making those proactive changes this year to prevent that kind of issue from happening again.
Thank you.
Please.
A lot of times we see that we have to go back and pay what was missed, but there's always an amendment to the contract, and it doesn't seem to ever have a deadline as to what we can attach to that amendment. Is there a reason why we just didn't amend 2021? Or is there a line that's drawn finally that says you can't amend to a contract that old?
So I believe the reason why the sheriff's department opted for a purchase order in this situation is because that contract, the previous contract in which these charges did occur, had expired, and we have shifted to a new contract with the same vendor. So it in my opinion, it seems like it's a cleaner way to correct this issue after the fact.
Okay.
And Councilwoman Baker, I would add in from the perspective of the Department of Purchasing, this issue's come up a couple of times. It is sometimes better in scenarios like this when there's an ongoing service need to make kind of a clean break with the old contract and then just do a purchase order for final payment to close out the old one.
Right.
But we could look at it on a case-by-case basis.
Actually, I think I would prefer this way than extending a contract that's ended. I never did like that practice, but we've done it, and I'm just asking why we didn't do it again. But I would think this would be better, a better way of handling it. I think it's cleaner, but I too am disappointed that we're so late in this, and that we're kind of at the end of the food chain for approval, and here we are, we have to say yes because you need to pay, but it's not a great place to be in.
Okay, I agree. And Stephen, you said you're better now on the reconciliation, timelier.
Staffing issue, there were staffing issues last year. The reconciliation process has shifted to new staff in human resources, and we're now in a better place to monitor this and prevent this from happening again. And like I said, we're taking a proactive step in adding those additional funds ahead of time as we expect these hiring events with COs in which they're testing 50 to 100 plus potential applicants at a time. And those costs are about $150 per person. So we're making that proactive step now to prevent this issue from continuing in the event that we do have a lengthy reconciliation process continuing.
Good.
Mr. Mackler?
Stephen, are you able to just and if you can maybe email us this, but attribute how much from the hiring events though? I mean, those were new, right, last year. Just if you could provide a dollar amount of the increased costs, just to kind of, I mean, that is, from an administrative perspective, something, perhaps the departments weren't ready for, knowing we were going to be trying to recruit and hire these new corrections officers. So I'm just curious, out of the 40,000, how much we could attribute to the kind of multiple events we did last year, trying to fill the corrections officer vacancies.
Sure. What I'll do is I'll reach out to Julie McNulty and the talent acquisition team and find out how many people they recommend to get tested from these events, and then we'll put something together for you.
Thank you.
Good. Okay. Are there any final questions from the board? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Moving on.
We are on the consent items, items BC 2022-257 through 259.
Okay, board members, there's only a couple items here, so if you have any questions, let me know.
I have one.
Yes, please.
On the 257, I was just curious on the influenza vaccination. That was paid for out of the ARPA funds, but typically we offer that vaccination. Where would that have normally been taken out? And are those funds shifted to ARPA and not, I mean, is that a savings for us? How does that
Yes,
work?
so Becky Eby, Office of Innovation and Performance. So this contract was originally authorized under the CARES Act, and that's where most of the expenses have been paid out of. So this is just an extension to bring this through to the end of 2022 with ARPA dollars, or with general fund made possible by ARPA revenue loss. So those influenza vaccines were added on in an amendment early on in the CARES Act. I think because there was a concern with COVID-19 and influenza happening at the same time, folks that were coming in to get those shots could also get their flu vaccine. Otherwise, those are traditionally provided by the Board of Health, and so those dollars are out of their operational budget. The county itself, our department obviously doesn't pay for those.
Okay, so Board of Health then, so they had a savings of not having to offer that service.
So, yes, so this was a reimbursable grant originally under CARES, and it continues to be that way for ARPA. They have an existing contract, a sister contract, I guess, with Metro Health, and then we reimburse them as Metro Health submits those invoices.
So as we move further, and the ARPA dollars are spent in the CARES, when we're back into the normal 2019 days, these vaccinations would come out of the Board of Health.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mackler.
Becky, just real quick, I think I'm reading your answer. We have 1.2 million left from that
Yes.
original emergency purchase.
Yes, we have 1.2 million contracting authority left, correct.
Okay, and do you anticipate that all that will be spent by
So
31?
we're only asking to certify 400,000 of the remaining 1.2 because we do think that there's going to be a decrease in the use of this contract. So right now we're estimating about 400,000. If it's something where we need to ask for additional, certification, we will. But at this time, we don't anticipate to go over that 400,000.
So that should, if I'm understanding correctly, right, that'll leave about 800K left over in CARES?
Well, of contracting authority, not necessarily CARES, but just of authority to spend on the contract.
Okay.
Because CARES Act is done, it's closed.
Okay, all right, I'm good for right now.
Are you sure? Okay.
We'll talk later.
Okay.
If I can ask just quickly, this does say that it's American Rescue Plan revenue, not CARES.
Correct. It's general fund dollars made possible by ARPA revenue loss.
Good, thanks.
Trevor, you sure? Yeah, we got her
But
here.
CARES revenue loss, right? I just want to be clear, we're, because this was a
Well,
CARES.
CARES wasn't, well, go ahead.
Right. So this amendment is not only extending the time, it's also changing the funding source. So the CARES Act dollars had to be spent by December 31st, 2021. So that is where this contract has been paid out of up to 12/31/2021. So this amendment is not only extending the time through the end of the year, it's also changing that funding source to ARPA because CARES is closed out and there's no items that are being paid for out of that funding source.
Thank you.
So if I may, so this funding source begins January 1st of this year.
Correct.
Should it read that way or not important? I mean, it is changing the funding source. It's no longer coming out of the,
I mean, all the briefing memo has said that, so if there's something we need to adjust, Paul, we're happy to do that.
We'd have to see if it was written in the contract that way.
Absolutely. We'd take a look at the prior contract
Yeah.
and maybe take a look at the way it was written on the agenda last time around so we can get back to it. You're right, it does specify in the briefing memo what the funding source is moving forward. And the fact that it's listed here, I
Yeah.
think it can be voted on without issue.
Yeah.
We can just, look back.
And I don't believe the amendment says anything with the CARES Act, but obviously we can check that. Laws put this together for us, so.
I think as time goes on, it makes it cleaner, that it switches from one to the other.
Sure.
And when does that date begin? If anyone went back and audited.
Do you think it's worth amending the item as it appears on the agenda then to explicitly state a change in funding source?
Well, it says general fund made available through ARPA revenue loss.
It's general fund.
Yeah.
Let's just forget that second part.
Okay,
Okay, because
general fund, right?
all that money is going to be
I understand.
reallocated to the general fund as revenue loss, but it's,
Right.
let's not get in there. So I'd say we strike that ARP language at the end of it.
Okay.
And then
It's general
beginning with,
fund.
and then beginning 1/1/2022, is that important?
I
or
believe
no?
the contract cover should state that, Paul. It should state the change in the
Cover should
fund.
maybe have the change. We'll just have to verify that.
Yeah.
It does, yeah.
Okay,
The accounting units are correct in the system.
Yeah.
It's not a question of how it's being accounted for. I think the question is what's it listed as we're voting on it.
I think we should strike that American Rescue money
That's fine
right
by
off
me.
the bottom and just call it general fund.
General fund, yep.
Of course, my pen ran out, but that's fine.
I mean, it's good to know that it was available because of that, but it's not relevant anymore.
Right. Okay, so I think we're good to vote?
Let's make a
Can I-
motion and second if you're going to do an amendment first before we proceed, unless Trevor, of course, wants to talk about it.
Not about the amendment, I just have. Becky, do you know if, so the county executive and the council have been announcing how they're spending the ARPA
Correct.
dollars, right? And they are getting a portion of
Correct.
ARPA dollars for the Board of Health.
Correct. So there's $400,000 for testing and
So-
vaccinations.
So, hold on, I just want to, the amount that was agreed upon, I think was 1.5 or
Yeah,
something like that.
correct.
million. This is 400 of that?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
The remaining will be coming forward with a separate contract for the contract tracing to support some of these efforts in addition to the 1.8 that was allocated for lead. So that'll be forthcoming probably maybe in the time for, well, it'll be on a council meeting because it's a larger dollar item. But that 1.1 is coming, yes.
So this is actually,
Mhm.
I mean, a part of the announcements that council and the executive have agreed upon, which,
Right, this is
that's
part
what I
of
was a little confused about the item. I didn't realize this was 400 of the new money, even though it's coming out of general fund, to the chairman's point.
Correct.
This is actually some of that agreement that
Correct.
has been spent, so I think this will actually be one of the few dollars first spent in terms of approved items.
Correct.
Okay, any more discussion?
So Trevor, is that going to be part of an overall list of how this is spent, with this being one of the first?
I think the chairman is right? We attribute it so much to revenue loss. Council approved that on a fiscal agenda
Right, this
a
is
month
the
or so
revenue
ago.
loss.
We're drawing down, in essence, I mean, in
At revenue
lack of
loss.
better terms, right? 400K of that.
Right, okay.
But, yes, in terms of tracking, I mean, from what I'm doing, and I think from what Becky is doing and others, this would be 400K out of the 240 million. Now,
Right.
depending on how you attribute it, but we're spending 400K out of that
Right.
with
So-
this agreement.
When we get a budget update and that number's lower,
Mhm.
there'll be, this will be brought to light as to why it's 400,000 less.
Or included in the 240.
Yeah, it's
depending
included in
on-
the 240, yeah.
Right. Okay,
that's good to know.
that's what I
Okay.
was,
Okay.
I thought we were talking.
It's not
that
additional.
makes more sense now.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, any final comments? On the advice of my law department, do you want me to remove the rescue plan and just call it general fund? I mean, the whole point was, it was identifying it so
Right.
you can keep track of it, but
Mr. Chair, then
are you
knowing
okay?
that now, I would probably.
You like to leave it?
Just
Okay.
so there's some acknowledgement that we're spending some of that 140 or whatever million that council already attributed as revenue loss. We're spending some of that now.
As long as we all go forward understanding it's general fund, but we're
Mhm.
leaving that in there as our,
Explanation of
Yeah.
where it came from and how we got it.
of the 240 plus, yeah. Okay, then I'll leave it be. Okay. With that being said, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, geez, thank you. Time has flown. All right, thank you, Mr. Councilman Miller and Ms. Nicole. I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items as listed. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. Other business?
No other business?
Okay, at this time, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh. Well, you're on your A game today. Sit back down, Mary Beth. We're not done yet. Is there any further public comment?
And no public comment.
Now I'll make the motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Lee Tucker. All in favor, say aye. Aye.